Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, we're going to be doing a little podcast today. Like a podcast, but we're going to go around the internet and see what's going on in the world. Today is Sunday, the 16th of February, 2020. And let's take a look at what's going on. I'm going to just hunt around the internet, take a look first at Google News. Here in Canada, there's a push going on for medical use of I can't pronounce it. Okay, mushrooms. Now they got pot here. They legalized it here in Canada. And they've legalized it in a lot of places in the United States, Now they're pushing for mushrooms too. I don't know what benefit mushrooms would be, to be honest, in medicinal purposes, but I haven't really studied into it too much. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the news today. One of the big stories is the Chinese right now are new cases have been slowing in China. This is the first real hint of any good news we've had ever since this virus scare seemed to start way back in January, And the Chinese, their methods that they're using are in some ways draconian. They are quite literally, some people are offering rewards to if anybody has a fever. If you tell the government who has a fever, they'll give you a reward. I think it's like $80 or something like that, or $100 or whatever. Maybe up to $300, depending on if you catch a super spreader. But they're offering this does work. If you can scour through the population, find each and every person that even has a fever, and ship them off to a hospital that's got bars over the windows, well, this does work. The virus will respond to that, because this virus has to have a way of communicating between people. You have to get like within 2 meters of somebody to catch it. And if they can keep people apart, keep them separated, keep them in their own homes, keep them not from traveling, etc., 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 they can actually quite literally stop the virus in its tracks, even if it does have a high R0 value. So we see cases dropping in China, and there is hope. But what about these other countries out there? Could they impose these same draconian measures? Well, they have constitutional laws and stuff. I don't think that they can just wall the city off, and shut off all the highways in or out, and force everybody to stay in their homes, and drag people off whether they want to go or not, whether they want to leave their home or not, drag them out of their homes to a hospital with bars on the windows. I don't think they can do that in some of these Western countries. And if you can't do that, then you're weak as far as your tools to fight the virus is concerned. So let's hope and pray that it stays. The virus just flies away off to some other little land someplace and disappears, because if it can't transmit itself, it will burn itself out. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, a really good thing, because we don't want this virus around. Anyway, in other news, pre-market stock trading today. The stock market is down 8 points. I tend to think the only thing holding this stock market down right now is the threat of the virus. And the whole time, they've been actually underestimating the threat. And the stock market really hasn't fell very much from its highs. It right now is at 29,387 for the Dow Jones. And the S&P, we're looking at about more or less 33.79, something like that. Anyway, the S&P. So the markets are doing rather well right now. They're buoyed on cheap, easy money from the Fed. The Fed just keeps pumping this money out, pumping it out, and it's keeping the markets buoyed. Imagine what the markets will do if this virus disappears. Can we say 30,000 on the Dow? But what's cryptocurrency doing today? Cryptocurrency is falling right now. It's taking a bit of a tumble out of bed, and we see the Bitcoin dominance rising. And that is a sign that we are going into a little bit of a nosedive. I don't think it's going to last real long. Now, other things that are going on. What we're looking at is in the Okanagan, a couple have claimed to see a unidentified aerial phenomenon. And so I wanted to take a peek at the video, so I did this morning. I took a peek at it. Now, you know what? I studied these unidentified aerial phenomenon for years, trying to find out what they were, after I had an encounter in the middle of the night, about, I guess it was 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on a really cold March night, it was snapping cold. The sky was so clear, you could see every star in the sky. One of those nights, and I was out in the country where, you ever been out in the country like that? You can really see the Milky Way, if you're away from the city lights. And some nights are clearer than other nights. This was a really clear night. And I'll always remember that thing looming against the sky, and it's dark. It was a dark object, looming against the night sky. It leaves an impression on your mind, that you never ever forget. I tell you, back in those days, I was a younger man. I didn't believe in those things. I thought that they were all just a bunch of kooky stuff, till I seen something for myself, right? And I thought that I was looking at some sort of new prototype aircraft or something like that, But it didn't make a sound, And anyway, so I studied these things for years. I was fascinated by them. It was like a hobby, sort of a thing, don't quit your day job, sort of a thing, But, so I had work, to do, but at nighttime, in my spare time, I'd sit down for almost 3 or 4 hours every night because I was absolutely fascinated about every book I could find on the subject, And I learned a lot over the years studying them, collecting photographs of them and everything else. And I can identify them. So I took a look at this footage that they filmed, the couple. I'll just read a little bit of it to you guys. Okanagan couple claimed to have seen a unidentified aerial phenomenon near, the name of the city is Naramata, near the Okanagan anyway, okay? And they caught it on video. And so I looked over the video today, and what I saw is an unidentified light in the sky. But here's the thing. I've spotted enough of these things in my years of searching. I used to set up cameras and everything, set up at the night sky and everything else, And I've saw them with my own eyes, other than that time I told you about where I saw something up close. But I'm talking about these unknown lights in the sky, from a distance. And this is one of them. This is not a fake film. I don't think it's a fake film. I think it's real footage because it has that classic look. It's not an airplane. Because airplane lights have a totally different look to them, Oftentimes, people mistake the headlights of an aircraft for an unidentified aerial phenomenon. And, the airplanes nowadays, you use halogen lights. They're like headlights on your car. And if a big aircraft is up, say, 15, 20,000 feet, and they got those lights on the front end of the airplane, it can be quite an impressive lighting display. Can come off of a large aircraft, like a 737 or a 747 or whatever. If they're like coming at you from a great distance, and it's a very clear night, and they got their headlights on, it's fooled a lot of people into thinking that that's something unidentified. And unless the airplane turns, when they start to turn, then you can see it's an aircraft, But another thing that people mistake is oftentimes at high altitude, a big jumbo jet the sun will gleam off of the aluminum off the side of the jet and make quite a bright flash, and people mistakenly identify that as well. That's another object that's quite often mistakenly identified because of the bright flash that comes when the angle of the airplane or the aircraft aims toward the sun at a certain angle, and it flashes a bright flash off of the aluminum, and the aircraft might be up 30,000 feet, and it's quite a stunning flash of light, coming off the aircraft, and people misidentify that quite often. The planet Venus is quite often misidentified, for a unidentified aerial phenomenon. At any rate, what we're looking at here is this has been going on for years, and when there's a lot of these sightings in a particular area, they call that a flap. They say it's a flap. They call it a flap. Anyway, let's move on and talk about something else. I went to this video and I got a real kick out of it. On YouTube here, there's a fella and his name is Airsoft Fatty. And I've been watching him for quite a long time. His first videos, I notice that his production quality of his videos is going up. I think he's got a much better camera now. And he did this new video. It's called I Almost Drowned in a Ball Pit at Sky Zone. So he went to this entertainment center called Sky Zone, I guess down in the States. They don't have Sky Zones up here. But they got what's called a ball pit. And it's like they fill this big area. They put a net on the bottom. And they fill it full of like styrofoam. Pieces of styrofoam, chunks of styrofoam and stuff. And kids are supposed to jump in there, and have fun, bouncing around on the balls and styrofoam or whatever, And they had trampolines in there and everything else. So he went running across the trampolines and he jumped into this ball pit. Well, there's no real bottom in the ball pit. You got to kind of swim in the balls. And anyway, he got in there, and he was like, he had one heck of a hard time. I'm telling you, watching the video, it's about a 10-minute long video. I think it's 10 minutes and 44 seconds long. Watching the video, I really felt for him. He was in there and he couldn't get a purchase where his legs were down in the styrofoam. He couldn't get a purchase anywhere to get himself up and out, And he was quite literally sinking. It's a good thing you can actually breathe down underneath the styrofoam if you don't panic or anything, I probably wouldn't have I probably wouldn't have a good time in there either. I'd get stuck too, If you can't get a purchase on anything, how can you get out? Now kids just bounce around. My dad, he used to call them slingshots and rubber bands because of the way they can bounce around and get out of almost anything. They're very agile and they're actually, a lot of kids are quite athletic, Anyway, he got stuck in this ball pit. And he was swimming in there trying to get out, and he was getting tired after about 10 minutes. And I don't know why his friend didn't help him out, something, or try to get him out of there. Anyway, finally they came with an aluminum ladder, and they got it in there at the right angle so that he could get up on it and get out, And I felt a real relief for the guy, when he finally got out of that ball pit, because it was an ordeal for him. You guys can watch the whole show, on Airsoft Fatty. It's one of his latest shows. He produced it on November 29th, 2019. And I found it quite entertaining to watch. But at the same time, I had a feel for him because he was having such a hard time swimming in there trying to get out. And he really was earnestly trying to get out, And he was almost panicking a little bit to try to get out of there. He was having such a hard time. Anyway, it was a little bit of a hard video to watch, but I kind of really felt good at the end, when he finally got out of there, and he was able to get a drink of cold water, Anyway, listen, guys. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and we are just basically streaming this to anywhere YouTube reaches in the world. Love my audience out there. You guys are the greatest. And we'll catch you guys on the next show. Bye-bye.